When I arrived at my sister's engagement party, the groom's family treated me like a servant. They laughed at my simple clothes and lectured me about getting a real job, all while boasting endlessly about their high-status positions at Omnicorp Global. They had no idea that I didn't just work there, or know someone who did. The truth was far simpler, and infinitely more humiliating for them. I own Omnicorp Global, and I was about to make that fact their absolute worst nightmare. The chilled air of the Grand Regency Ballroom in Manhattan felt less like a celebration and more like a carefully controlled environment, designed to amplify the sense of superiority held by those who felt they belonged there. The space was a breathtaking, ostentatious display of old money excess, crystal chandeliers that seemed to hold the light of 100 suns, soaring ceilings that felt oppressive rather than grand, and a ridiculous life-size sculpted ice swan that was slowly, inevitably, weeping into a pool of expensive condensation. The low, confident hum of New York society networking, all tailored suits, inherited titles, and self-important buzz, created a dense, almost suffocating atmosphere. My name is Ava Sterling. I'm 32, and the official narrative is that I am the founder and CEO of Sterling Tech. What started 8 years ago in a borrowed garage server space, powered by caffeine and sheer will, has grown into a global software infrastructure behemoth valued this quarter at $12.3 billion. We are the backbone of secure digital commerce, the unseen pipes that allow giant corporations to function. This unseen nature suited me perfectly. It was the complete antithesis of the O'Connell world, which thrived on visible, loud, and inherited prestige. What absolutely nobody at this party, especially the O'Connells themselves, knew was the single most critical fact of my recent corporate history. 18 months ago, Sterling Tech had quietly and surgically executed a hostile leveraged acquisition, securing a controlling 51% equity stake in a century-old diversified holding company called Omnicorp Global. The very same company the O'Connell family treated like their personal fiefdom, the source of their entire identity, wealth, and self-worth. I was effectively and secretly the chairwoman of their board, managing the transition and restructuring from behind a series of complex shell corporations, waiting for the right moment to step out of the shadows. Tonight, I was playing a role I was desperately tired of, the simple older sister. I had deliberately chosen an outfit that was both chic and brutally anonymous. A tailored boatneck cashmere dress in a muted slate color, simple black velvet flats, and a discreet vintage solid gold chain on my wrist. No flashy logos, no recognizable designers, and certainly no diamonds. Nothing that screamed billionaire. I did this for Chloe. She was marrying Liam O'Connell, and she was already a wreck, terrified of his hypercritical mother, Victoria. The last thing Chloe needed was me accidentally outshining her on her big night, or worse, giving the O'Connells more ammunition against the poor provincial Sterlings. I found Chloe near a lavish, cascading floral arrangement, a beautiful, nervous picture in a perfectly fitted ivory lace gown. "Ava! Oh, thank God you made it," she whispered, hugging me with a frantic urgency that spoke volumes about her stress level. "You look perfect. So understated. So much better than Serena's ridiculous gold lame disaster. It actually looks like she's melting under the chandeliers." "Muted is my motto tonight," I assured her, squeezing her hand and smoothing a stray curl from her temple. "Just blend into the wallpaper and celebrate my gorgeous sister. Seriously, stop worrying about them. They're just people." The moment of calm was instantly and violently shattered by the arrival of the family who considered themselves the ruling class of the Grand Regency, the O'Connells. Liam O'Connell, my sister's fiancé, was a senior investment manager at Omnicorp. He was handsome but in a corporate sterile way, and today he looked smug, carrying the weight of his perceived importance like a tangible, heavy burden. He was flanked by his mother, Victoria O'Connell, the matriarchal villain of the piece, radiating cold judgment, and his older sister, Serena, the director of PR for Omnicorp. The trio advanced, a perfectly coordinated unit of condescension, their expensive perfume thick and cloying in the air. Victoria, a woman whose massive diamonds seemed to have replaced her capacity for empathy, approached us first. She wore a bespoke sapphire gown that looked like it cost half a year of Chloe's teaching salary, which was precisely the effect she desired. "Chloe darling, you look simply radiant. Absolutely radiant," Victoria purred, a massive, obnoxious diamond ring catching the light on her claw-like hand. Her smile was wide for Chloe, But her gaze slid over me and paused, fixing on my muted slate dress with a look of barely concealed pity and deep confusion. She paused, tilting her head as if examining a curious insect. And you must be Ava. Liam has mentioned you. You're the one who does the little freelance website designs for small businesses in, where was it? Brooklyn. The air immediately thickened, turning cold and heavy, a palpable tension I hadn't felt since my earliest days fighting for funding. I felt the familiar, hot burn of being dismissed. I own a technology firm, Victoria, I replied evenly, extending my hand in a gesture of professional courtesy she clearly didn't deserve. Sterling Tech. We build global corporate infrastructure for enterprise clients. Victoria offered a fingertip handshake, barely making contact, her expression suggesting I had just confessed to selling hand-knitted dog sweaters on Etsy. Ah yes, the freelance work. I'm sure it keeps you busy. It's lovely you have a little hobby, dear. Well, one must start somewhere, mustn't one? Now, Chloe, about the seating chart. She turned her back on me mid-sentence, loudly discussing the placement of the junior staff, us, versus the important guests, them. Serena, however, was determined to drill down the point. She took a long, calculated sip of champagne, her eyes sweeping over my entire silhouette, judging every fold of the cashmere dress. That dress is incredibly interesting, Ava. It looks so comfortable, like something you'd wear to the grocery store on a rainy Tuesday. It's almost aggressively bland. You really should try to elevate your style, especially now that you're associating with the O'Connell family. My brother Liam is practically royalty at Omnicorp Global. We have a certain corporate reputation to uphold, you know. Appearances matter to our clients. Liam, sensing his sister's attack had landed, chimed in, managing a patronizing smile that didn't reach his cold eyes. Don't worry, Chloe. When we're married, we'll help Ava out. We can't have her looking like this at important family gatherings. I know a friend who has an opening for a junior project coordinator at a mid-sized marketing firm. Maybe she could take on some minor social media consulting for a local nonprofit. I'm sure my mother could pull some strings with her contacts to get her some visibility and a proper title. The casual cruelty of their words, the complete, utter, repeated dismissal of years of 12-hour days, risk and innovation, was a constant grating noise. Yet I held my composure. I reminded myself, truly successful people don't need to shout their achievements. Insecure, fragile people rely on their titles to shield them. That's very generous of you, Liam, I said, my voice soft, almost too pleasant, masking the razor-sharp edge beneath. But Sterling Tech just signed a $2 billion contract last quarter. We focus on infrastructure contracts, not social media content for nonprofits. I think I'll stick with my hobby for now. Victoria scoffed, loud enough for several nearby guests to freeze and turn their heads, effectively making my humiliation a public event. Infrastructure? My dear, you simply don't understand the difference between labor and capital, between plumbing and policy. Omnicorp Global is global. We don't handle infrastructure like some utility company. We manage billions in assets. We set market trends across 3 continents. Liam's upcoming promotion to Senior VP is a testament to the family name and connections. That is real power, Ava, not some little startup you run from your apartment, is it? You should consider getting a proper job with benefits. It was the 7th time in 10 minutes they had mentioned Omnicorp Global, emphasizing the name as if it were a shield against all criticism, a mark of ultimate, inherited superiority. They lived and breathed that name. Then came the mistake that sealed their fate. The moment I decided a simple corporate transition wasn't enough. It required public, televised-level devastation. Serena, clearly desperate for a final, winning blow, leaned in, her gaze locked onto my wrist. It was bare except for a single, deceptively simple piece of jewelry. A vintage, solid gold chain bracelet, completely unadorned. It was the last gift my grandmother had given me. A thick, buttery gold chain. A keepsake more valuable to me than all their corporate baubles combined. Oh, what's this pathetic thing? Serena snatched my wrist, holding the bracelet up to the light, examining the matte gold with an audible sniff of pure disgust. She immediately dropped it with a look of theatrical distaste. Seriously, Ava? Is that plated? It looks like something you pick up at a flea market. Honestly, it really cheapens the look even with your sensible dress. You know, Omnicorp has a corporate jewelry line for their female executives. I can send you a voucher for something a little less tarnished. A piece of real gold, perhaps. Something with provenance. The word tarnished landed like a physical blow. It wasn't about the bracelet. It was about the continuous targeted humiliation meant to diminish me, my sister, and disrespect the memory of my grandmother. They weren't just mocking my clothes. They were attacking my worth, my integrity, and Chloe's choice of family. The well of patience dried up, replaced by the cool, lethal, calculating clarity of a CEO about to execute a hostile, personal strike against enemy combatants. "Excuse me for a moment," I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but carrying an unmistakable edge of finality that made even Victoria pause. Victoria, sensing my retreat, snapped, her voice hard and authoritative. "Don't you dare walk away while I'm talking to you, Ava. You need to learn some manners before you officially join our family circle. This is an important lesson." I ignored her completely, walking briskly past the weeping ice swan and towards the hallway connecting to the hotel's main offices. I pulled out my phone and used a secure, direct corporate satellite line I had installed specifically for extreme, out-of-hours emergencies. My call was patched through immediately to Michael Vance, the CEO of Omnicorp Global, a man who until 18 months ago was an untouchable titan. He was now an employee I paid very well to follow my strategic directives. "Michael, it's Ava. I need you to initiate Project Nightingale. Code 1. Michael's voice, though guarded, held a tremor of shock and immediate compliance. "Code 1? Miss Sterling, that's immediate termination without cause, no severance pending formal review for 3 people. Correct. Serena O'Connell, Director of PR Liam O'Connell, Senior Manager, Investment, and Victoria O'Connell. She's not an employee, but I want her personal access keys, corporate parking pass, and the family's reserved annual box at the Met Opera revoked. Effective now. Send out the immediate termination email to Serena, and a mandatory administrative leave notice to Liam, citing gross misconduct, abuse of corporate resources, and egregious violation of the shareholder code of ethics. I want these notices sent to their personal phones and their Omnicorp emails right now. And Michael? Make sure the reply all function is enabled on Serena's notice. I want the whole executive floor to see it. It will be done, Chairman. Everything is ready on this side, legal and HR are standing by." Michael confirmed instantly, knowing better than to argue with the woman who controlled 51% of his entire universe. I then sent a single encrypted text message to my corporate lawyer, Eleanor Vance, no relation to Michael, who was waiting in a taxi 3 blocks away. Eleanor was the only other person in the city who knew the full scope of my ownership. "Come to the Grand Regency. Ballroom. Code Silver. Bring the documentation." I returned to the table, my expression placid, but my eyes shining with a dangerous, alarming intensity. The O'Connells were still huddled together, Serena showing Chloe a picture of her new $10,000 corporate watch, completely oblivious to the digital avalanche hurtling towards them. "Honestly, Chloe," Serena drawled, putting her phone away, "you really need to tell your sister that people who work for themselves look sloppy. It reflects badly on the Sterling name now that we've graciously accepted you. You should be grateful we're giving you this social standing. Look at your sister. She can't even hold a proper conversation." Victoria seized the moment, basking in the public attention she mistook for admiration. "Ava, I expect an apology for your abrupt departure. Now let's discuss this administrative job for you. I'll call HR at Omnicorp on Monday. We can probably squeeze you into an administrative assistant role, maybe $50,000 a year, no benefits for the first 6 months. That way you can start building a real portfolio and stop with the silly website business." I held up a hand, a single decisive gesture that froze the entire conversation. The room, which had been buzzing with hundreds of conversations, seemed to quiet naturally as I took center stage, my calm demeanor contrasting sharply with the internal earthquake I was about to unleash. "Victoria Serena Liam, I apologize for being rude." I began, my voice clear, steady, and carrying across the ballroom. "But I can't apologize for my job. And I certainly can't apologize for my choice of accessories. But more importantly, I can't listen to you boast about your prestige any longer." I paused, letting the silence hang heavy, the weight of 1,000 eyes pressing down on the O'Connells. Liam started to look deeply uncomfortable, shifting his weight, recognizing the danger in my tone. "I'm sorry, Ava, I didn't mean to be harsh," Liam mumbled, attempting a retraction as he noticed the entire room watching. "Oh, you meant every word, Liam. But that's okay, because I have a question for you all. You've mentioned Omnicorp Global about a dozen times tonight, citing it as the source of all your prestige and power. Tell me honestly, do you think power is derived from merely working for a company, or from owning it?" Victoria let out a short, condescending little laugh, her contempt boiling over, unaware she was standing on a trap door. "Oh, Ava, please. Stop talking in riddles. You clearly wouldn't know the difference. The adults here know that management controls the power structure. The Sterling family will never understand capital." I offered a small predatory smile that felt utterly foreign on my face. "I do know the difference, Victoria, because 18 months ago, Sterling Tech executed a carefully planned, leveraged acquisition and bought the controlling interest in Omnicorp Global. I own the majority shares. I am the chairwoman of the board. You work for me." The words struck the O'Connells like a physical blow. The color drained instantly from the faces of Victoria, Liam, and Serena, leaving them looking like expensive, terrified mannequins. The silence in the ballroom was so profound I could hear the faint, high-pitched music from the band taking a break downstairs. A group of guests nearby who worked in finance stared openly, checking their phones in disbelief. Serena recovered first, her face twisting in pure, visceral denial. "That's absurd. Impossible. My father helped build that company. It's a public company, we would know. You're lying to try and save face and ruin Chloe's engagement." "Am I?" I asked sweetly, not needing to wait for the confirmation. The corporate retaliation was already hitting their pockets, harder than any physical slap. Suddenly, Liam's phone, which he was holding loosely, vibrated with a sharp, proprietary sound that only an Omnicorp employee would recognize. The executive emergency alert tone. It was the notification for a company-wide emergency email, only used for major, sensitive announcements. Liam's eyes widened to saucers as he read the subject line. Urgent HR notification. Executive personnel changes. Immediate action required. His hands began to shake violently, the glass of champagne rattling precariously. Simultaneously, Serena's phone chimed with 2 consecutive notifications. One a standard email, the other a bold, flashing push notification from the Omnicorp intranet. Serena checked hers first. Her breath hitched in her throat, a choked high-pitched sound of pure horror. Her hand flew to her mouth, crushing the silk fabric she was holding. She whispered, her voice dissolving into panic. "No! Termination for gross misconduct? Effective immediately? And the entire executive contact list is copied?" It was sent to everyone. The email detailed multiple instances of unethical conduct regarding vendor selection and PR budget abuse. Liam, trembling, was reading his. He looked up at Serena, tears welling in his eyes, his voice a pathetic squeak. "Mine says, mandatory, immediate administrative leave with full investigation into ethical conduct and resource mismanagement regarding the Singapore acquisition." What the hell, Serena? What did you do? He realized too late that the investigation wasn't about Serena. It was about the family. Victoria was in absolute, furious, theatrical denial. She was still trying to maintain control, her voice shrill and breaking, attracting every eye in the room. "This is ridiculous. A mistake. Serena, call Michael Vance. Liam, you march straight to the CEO's office on Monday and demand an explanation. You can't listen to this website, girl." That's when my lawyer, Eleanor Vance, no relation to Michael, a happy coincidence, a woman who radiated quiet, lethal authority in a crisp black suit, entered the room. She walked straight toward our table, carrying a heavy leather-bound folio stamped with the official Sterling Tech seal. She didn't need to say a word. She was the final devastating piece of the puzzle, a living, breathing document of corporate control. "No need, Victoria," I said, looking her directly in the eye, my voice cutting through the noise. "Michael Vance is taking my call right now. And as for demanding an explanation, he works for me. Eleanor here can provide you with the necessary legal documentation proving my majority ownership. As of 5 minutes ago, neither Liam nor Serena work for me, and your personal corporate access keys, which you routinely use for hotel bookings, personal shopping, and giving press access to Serena's friends, have been permanently revoked. Have the guard clear your box at the Met. Effective immediately. Liam looked like he was seconds away from a full-blown physical collapse. Serena was silently shaking, tears mixing with expensive makeup as her high-powered career dissolved in a cloud of cheap talk, high arrogance, and one bad public fashion critique. Victoria O'Connell, however, tried one last, desperate, theatrical move. She turned to Chloe, grabbing her arm with frantic, painful strength. "Chloe, you must stop her. Tell her she's destroying your future. You're going to be an O'Connell. Fix this, or you will regret it for the rest of your life. Don't let your sister ruin everything." Chloe, who had been silent through the whole exchange, watching the poisonous, entitled nature of her future in-laws unfold in spectacular public clarity, finally spoke. Her face was pale, but her eyes held a spark of defiant, cold resolve I hadn't seen before. She gently, deliberately removed Victoria's hand from her arm. Her voice was shaking but steady, resonating with a newfound, powerful strength that silenced even Victoria. "My future isn't with people who humiliate my family for sport, Victoria. My sister is my family. You are all guests here celebrating our choice. And you have just proven to me, in the most spectacular way possible, that the only thing you truly care about is a corporate title. You are not worthy of a single moment of my loyalty." With that, Chloe reached up, pulled the delicate, 3-carat diamond engagement ring from her finger, the stone catching the light in a final flash, and placed it neatly, gently, on the pristine linen tablecloth next to Liam's trembling hand. "The engagement is off," she announced clearly to the stunned, silent room. She turned to me, her eyes wet but fierce, a smile already breaking through. "Ava, let's go home. I need a cheeseburger." I took Chloe's arm, pulling her close. As we turned to leave, Victoria suddenly lunged at me, tears streaming down her face, her carefully constructed facade completely destroyed, revealing the terrified, desperate, and powerless woman underneath. "You evil, petty little girl. You'll regret this. This is my son's life. You can't do this to us." I stopped, my hand still resting on Chloe's elbow. I leaned in close to Victoria, my voice dropping to a final, deadly cold whisper that only she, Serena, and Liam could hear over the rising murmur of the crowd. "Petty? You called my grandmother's vintage solid gold bracelet tarnished, and offered me a $50,000 receptionist job while you stole corporate parking passes. You humiliated my sister publicly, repeatedly. Your corporate ethics violations were always a ticking time bomb waiting for the next audit, Victoria. You just made the mistake of insulting the owner. You deserved this, and trust me, the corporate investigation into your entire family's fraudulent expense reports and misconduct, which Liam's promotion was supposed to cover up, is just getting started. Enjoy the view from the outside, Victoria. You're done." We walked away, leaving the chaos, the melting ice swan, the crystal, and the O'Connells behind, standing in the ruins of their arrogance, their titles stripped, their futures uncertain. Outside, the New York air felt fresh, cold, and filled with a potent, intoxicating sense of absolute triumph and glorious freedom. Chloe was crying, but she was laughing too, a beautiful, cathartic release of years of pent-up stress. "That was the most dramatic, most expensive, most perfectly executed corporate coup I have ever witnessed," Chloe said, collapsing into the back of the waiting taxi. She took a deep, shuddering breath. "I think I owe you a lifetime supply of your sensible cashmere, and maybe a piece of your company." I smiled, pulling her into a genuine hug. "You owe me nothing, Chloe. You are my sister, and nobody, especially not an arrogant, entitled family who thinks a job title is worth more than decency, gets to treat you or me that way. Their power was always an illusion. Mine is just quiet. Now let's go home and celebrate your glorious, stress-free freedom." The next day, the news would break. Omnicorp Global's share price would see a small, temporary dip due to the dramatic, unexplained C-suite personnel shift and the highly publicized executive resignations. And the O'Connell name would be permanently stained and ridiculed in corporate circles across the city, thanks to a woman in a simple slate dress who refused to be underestimated. I looked at my wrist, the tarnished solid gold chain catching the reflection of the city lights, and smiled. Some wealth doesn't need to shout to be heard. It just needs the right moment to strike.